Hello and welcome then to the MotoGP Fantasy Preview Live for the Japanese GP. Yes, that's right. We're finally going back to Motegi for the first time in 3 years. And if you saw on our social channels yesterday that we advertised this live to be with Ayagura, unfortunately we've had a last minute change of plan. Ayagura is very busy today, of course, a home Grand Prix for him. Lots of media commitments. So instead of Ayagura, we have a very exciting guest, actually a good friend of ours, good colleague as well. And it's our very own, one of our MotoGP pit lane reporters, Jack Appleyard. So good hello to you, Jack. How are you? What time is it over there in Japan?
It is just coming up to 2 p.m. local time here in Japan. And Jack, I've got to pick you up on something as well. If you're going to introduce me, make sure you do it properly. I am, of course, the 2021 Dorna Sports MotoGP Fantasy Champion. So you say a special guest. We are
Yeah,
talking with a Campion del Mundo from last year.
but of course, as we know, everyone gets judged on the last race. And where are you in the standings at the minute,
True.
Jack?
It's not going particularly well this year, but I think you'll find that I have myself a nice little trophy in the trophy cabinet, whereas you do not.
I don't know. I've missed out 2 years running, second both years, and actually this year it's our World Superbike colleague Kiko Giles that's leading the way, so we can't let that happen for us. But now you do have a job to do for us because obviously you're a late drafting, so thank you for coming on. But we do need you to help us choose our fantasy team, so we'll bring it up now. And actually, it's not that bad to be honest. So if we have a quick scan over it, is it similar to what you've got already, or is it slightly different?
Very similar to what I've got. I also went for Mark last time out to try and get in on him as cheap as possible, thinking that results were going to come. That didn't go
Yeah,
to plan.
no,
And
not
my only
quite.
change is that my only difference is that I've got Maverick instead of Aleix. But other than that, I've got Pecco and Anea, and I think actually my factory is Ducati. So
Okay.
the fact that I've got Maverick meant that I could afford Ducati because I just thought factory wise there was no
Yes.
point going for anyone else with so many bikes on the grid.
Yeah, I mean, well, they wrapped up the constructors title last time out, so obviously it's going to work pretty well in fantasy too. Coming into Japan, Jack, of course, let's pry on your expertise here. You are a MotoGP pit lane reporter after all. There's plenty of knowledge in that noggin. Who's the people that are going to stand out this weekend?
Who's going to stand out this weekend? It's a tough one.
Yeah,
To be
it is.
perfectly honest, you say there's a
Very
lot of
tough.
knowledge up here. I don't know. We've not been here for 3 years. The bikes are totally different. The guys riding at the front are totally different. And to throw into the mix as well, it looks as though it's going to absolutely chuck it down on Sunday. So, to be
Yes.
perfectly honest with you, I haven't got a clue, Jack. But you would have to say that probably these four men will be there. Fabio
Yep.
will be there. Jack, if it's going to be wet, then I think potentially rolling the dice on the likes of Jack Miller or Johan Zarco, even a Brad Binder and Miguel Oliveira, of course, won
Yeah.
our last fully wet race, if I remember right, in Mandalika.
Correct.
Um, those could be guys that could be worth gambling on. But who to take out of the team, I don't know. I think that's a tough one. I would say maybe a controversial opinion,
Oh,
but
here we
I
go.
might get I might get rid of Inea.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. What's the reasoning for that one then?
So never been here before on a MotoGP machine. The last time he was
Correct.
here on a Moto 2 bike, I think, if my memory serves right, he finished outside of the top 10. Um, I do think that Ducati will have had a word in his ear following Aragon, and I'm not sure we'll see him finishing in front of Pecco, or at least finishing in front of Pecco, having made a move on the very last lap of the race,
Yeah.
potentially. So I think of those three, Mark experience will be key this weekend, especially with the weather as well. I'm going to keep him. He'll be still feeling pretty fresh. I think he said midweek coming into this one that obviously by not doing a full race distance, that his body's in great shape ahead of the weekend.
Yeah.
Pecco is Pecco in fine form. Aleix, again, has been fairly competitive here in the past. The Aprilia has normally been half decent here, so I'll keep hold of him. But I think Anea is the man to get rid of
Okay.
for me.
So let's say we take an air out then, as you've indicated. That gives us
Yep.
3.6 million to work with. Now, the other thing as well,
Can you
excuse me, is that you pointed out
Can you
about the
get rid of
constructor.
Aprilia as well?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say. My
So it
first
gives you
move will be
7.2 to million. Do you want Ducati in?
how much is Ducati? I want
They're
Ducati.
quite a bit, 4.5. Yeah,
Okay,
they are
let's
a
stick
lot
them
of
in.
money. Right. So Ducati's going in. What does that give us then for a rider? It only gives us 2.7 million, but I think there
2.7.
are some good options. We just miss out on Bezecchi at 2.8, which is
Bez
a shame.
and Miguel, unfortunately.
Yeah, even Johan Zarco is too much. Luca Marini was 2.7 million last time out, but not anymore. Alex Marquez is 2.5. I mean, you could gamble on someone
Mia's
like
not
Digia,
here.
who we know does decently. So
Yeah.
certainly not a bad shout. Is there anyone that kind of surges through? It's a bit of a tricky one, this, because 2.7 million doesn't give you a lot to work with. And if, like us, if you're watching
No.
along and you are in the same predicament with money, then yeah, I mean, we feel your pain at the moment. This is the trouble when you get down to the last few rounds. Usually the guys that are performing are kind of stretching up their budgets and a little bit out of reach. So do we want to
It's a tough
reevaluate,
one,
or
this.
are we going to gamble on someone?
Good question. And I'm not particularly sure just yet. I think if we get... I'm torn between Aleix and Anea. Do we get rid of Aleix?
Well,
Because that
pointing
will
out about
free up
Aleix,
an extra...
the Aprilia, has been said and it has been seen recently that it does struggle with straight line braking, and there is a fair bit of that in Motegi. There's a good 3 or 4 heavy braking points. Of course, Motegi won the hardest braking circuits on the calendar, so it might be a struggle for Aleix this weekend. You never know.
Potentially, yeah. Austria, somewhere he struggled a lot. Massano, similarly, as well. Potentially. But then again, Paolo Bonora, I think, back in Massano when I spoke to him, said that obviously Aprilia is still having concessions throughout this year. We're hoping to have the next step of their engine development for this weekend. So is that going to be an extra tonic and potentially push them
certainly
forwards?
Possible. We also know that Mavericks had another chassis to try as well, so you never know if that was positive last time out, then maybe Aleix has it this weekend, but that's still yet to be seen. It's tricky, eh? Very tricky.
One. So
do you want me to roll back the theme to see where we were?
No, just scroll down just so I can... How much was Anea? Anea is 3.6, so we've got an extra 0.4 if we decide to go with Aleix instead.
If you went with 3.1, then you could get the likes of Marini, Bezecchi, Rins. Rins might not be a bad shout. Oliveira. You just miss out on Maverick. Who else could you have?
How much is Brad again?
Brad's about 3.8, I think. Yeah, 3.8 million.
Okay. Yeah. Out of the bracket then. And Jack's just there as well.
Your big thing is obviously you've brought in Ducati, and that's what's making it difficult.
Yeah, but I just think
points
in wet conditions, the Ducati are just going to clean up. Oh, this is a bit of a predicament we've got here, Jack.
I'll point out that I do think that even though Anea probably will have been told by Ducati this week, make sure you don't finish ahead of the red number 63. He could well be still right behind him.
It could. Okay. Anea's in.
Right. Let me quickly refresh.
Let's roll it back.
See if we can do that now. I'll have to change web page. Okay, so we've rolled back. Anea's in. So we're taking Aleix out then.
Yes, go on. It's gone.
Okay, so Aleix is gone.
Adios.
Who do you want in there instead? Or do you still want to have Ducati in?
I want Ducati, and I feel like that's the move to make.
Let's sort that then. So then, as we said,
from the points I'm gaining there, I'll sacrifice.
Luca Marini, not a bad shout on form recently.
I like Zarco, I like Zarco.
Yeah.
I think we're coming to 3 places, 4 places. Malaysia is actually half decent at the test at the start here, if I remember rightly. But these next 3 Grand Prix, I feel like experience could count for a little bit more than what it has done throughout the rest of the rounds. That track knowledge,
Particularly
that
if there's tricky
ability.
conditions.
Yep. So I fancy Zarco might, as a silver rider, I think could be someone that can just tick away quite nicely and pick up some good points.
Oh, hello. We've had a complete. Let me
Oh,
refresh
it's
that one
crashed.
quickly. There we go. So we'll have to
And
quickly
of course,
change those
as
again.
well, Johan Zarco. Oh no, we need to get rid of Aleix, not Anaya.
Ah, yes, good point. Let me add.
Welcome. Zarco as well, very, very capable of putting a incredible lap together on a Saturday and picking you up a nice cheeky 10 or 9 or 8 points for a pole position or a front row start, which is always nice. It's always a nice little tonic when you pick up some points on a Saturday night.
It is, and often he has to do that coming through Q1 as well, and he picks up the extra 5 or 4 for that too. So happy with that then?
Yeah, I think I'm happy. It's Ducati heavy, but
it is. But also MotoGP at the minute is slightly Ducati heavy. But you know, when you think about it, those are the guys at the minute that have been performing very well. So it's got to be those. Question: do you want to rearrange any orders, or are you happy with the gold and silver setup as is?
I'm happy.
Okay, so we're going for the Marc Marquez gamble again. Yeah.
I know this is what I can't remember what the particular phrase is, but normally for all fantasy type sports games, don't trust your gut. Just look at the statistics and what has happened in previous rounds, because that is your best bet. But I'm going to throw the statistics and the form book to one side and say that despite not finishing a race since May, Mark's going to win on Sunday.
I mean, you have to say, though, that with like those first 2 corners that he did in Aragon last time out, where he came from 13th to 6th, certainly was on for a good points scoring finish in terms of MotoGP fantasy, at least anyway. So it's definitely positive. I mean, you know, we all saw Mark is actually somewhere back to being close to his best. So certainly in Japan, where everyone hasn't been to for quite a long time, might take a little bit longer to get used to it again. Marc Marquez, well, we know that he just goes out and attacks from lap 1, so he's certainly going to be quite a good option.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody would be surprised if it's wet and there's limited track time already as a result of Friday morning being cancelled. I mean, yes, it's only 10 minutes less, but still, when these guys haven't been here for 3 years, those 10 minutes can count for an awful lot. It will make a difference, and I don't think anybody would be surprised if he's on the podium on Sunday. I don't think anyone would sort of walk away from that and go, "Oh wow, I can't believe it." It would be pretty expected. Exactly. So yeah, I'm going to go Mark Gold, Pecco Gold. I think Ducati as the factory is the right move points wise, because I mean all you have to do is look at last weekend for Aprilia. Well, the previous weekends with Aprilia, we've not had it since the return of MotoGP after the summer break that we've had 2 Aprilias being competitive on the same weekend. There's been, you know, varying issues for either rider, but that's the gamble you take when you've only got 2 riders in your factory. So I think spreading your bet there with 8 riders is the right move. And then Anaya will be up there, and I think Zarco could surprise a few as well.
Yeah, he certainly could. Zarco's very good indeed. Now, just before we let you go, Jack, of course, we'll have to ask you a couple of quick questions, because it is crunch time in the championship now. 17 points between the top 3. Enea Bastianini's lurking there in the shadows just behind them as well. It's a difficult question, but who's your favourite for the championship?
You're putting me on the spot here, mate. I've got to go and speak to him later on this afternoon and try be mates with them. And I've just told 2 of them that they've got no chance of winning the championship.
Well,
thanks for that.
I mean, we spend a lot of time together in Barcelona. I already know this opinion anyway, but I thought the viewers would like to hear it. So.
Yes, you do. Over a beer, we have many a conversation. Sounds fun, doesn't it? It's really not. My pick for the championship, especially given what happened last Sunday with Fabio losing another 20 points, is Francesco Bagnaia. I think if he doesn't win the championship from this point, something will have to go pretty badly wrong for him. He's on the best bike by a country mile. He's riding incredibly well at the moment, and Fabio is just lost a little bit of confidence, I think, as is expected. His championship charge is faltering. Aleix, yeah, he got on the podium last time around, but I'm not sure if he's got the momentum behind him as well. Everything is pointing in the direction of Pecco. So with 5 rounds to go, I know I'm sort of putting my money where my mouth is here, but I think Pecco's the man.
Yep, no, fair reasoning for it all. Can't really argue with that. Pecco's the man with the momentum at the moment, and it is going to be very, very difficult to stop. But we'll see what happens this weekend, and we'll just have to thank you for filling in and being our temporary stand-in as Ayagura was too busy today. So big shout out and round of applause for Jack Appleyard today, and enjoy the rest of the weekend, mate. Hope you have a nice time in Japan, and indeed the rest of the flyways.
I absolutely will do. 5 weeks away. There's going to be plenty of celebratory, responsible, of course, beers had at the end of it. What's going to be a big trip, but a fun trip. I've got a mix, 2 suitcases between shorts and jeans and hoodies and T-shirts and raincoats and umbrellas and woolly hats to try and tick off all of the various weather conditions that we're going to tackle, but can't wait for it.
Man with a plan. That's what we like to hear. Well, thank you, mate, and speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon.
Okay, then. So, very big thank you to Jack Appleyard for joining us at such late notice. He actually just wandered into the set to see what was going on because Ayagura was a little bit too busy today with media commitments. And we said, Jack, have you got 10 minutes? And he was more than happy to oblige. But this is what he's gone for then in the end. As you can see on screen, Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia in gold. Can't really argue with that as we head to Japan for the first time in 3 years. And then also Enea Bastianini, victor last time out. Just ahead of Pecco Bagnaia. And Johann Zarco, always a solid pick. We haven't had him in the team in a long time, but certainly there are a lot of people that choose Zarco. He's always up there amongst the top picked in MotoGP Fantasy. Now, of course, as Jack does say, 5 rounds to go, and the momentum really is with Pecco. There's only 17 points covering the top 3. Aleix Espargaro is going to be a consistent threat, you know that. And Fabio, after 2 difficult weekends in a row, is going to be looking to bounce back here in Japan. It's certainly going to be an interesting one, but what we can say is that it's been fantastic to see the excitement of the riders as we return to Japan for the first time in 3 years. So make sure you tune in on Friday afternoon this time. Of course, FP1's delayed just a fraction here in Japan. And there's going to be rain forecasted, and there probably is definitely going to be rain because, well, have you heard the weather forecast over in that area of the world? There is quite a large typhoon going on around Japan at the moment. So there's certainly going to be drama aplenty indeed. Now, if you're not signed up to MotoGP Fantasy just yet, you still can. It's never too late to sign up to MotoGP Fantasy. You can go and create your own team and you can join these leagues and fight against your friends and also all the other people that play MotoGP Fantasy, 55,000 people in the full MotoGP official league. You can go into your stats, and if you're a little bit behind going into the final few races, make sure you go in here and check the Grand Prix stats and the fantasy stats. As Jack says, it's always best to go with the stats and what they say, but sometimes you just got to trust your gut as well. You can fight for some prizes still if you sign up this weekend. 2 tickets to a GP of your choice for the 2023 season. Certainly lovely indeed. Japan's always a good one, but it's quite far away. So if you fancy something a bit closer to home, that is all can be done too. So that's going to be it then for the MotoGP Fantasy preview of Japan. Once again, just a final big thank you to Jack Appleyard for joining us. And make sure you tune in this weekend and enjoy the action. Bye for now.